Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hub, and today we are diving into something so extraordinary, so absolutely mind-blowing, that by the time this video is over, you are going to be rushing to check every single coin in your house, your car, your old jars, your forgotten drawers, because what we are about to reveal is the kind of information that most people never get to hear, and the lucky few who do, well, they never look at pocket change the same way again. Imagine holding something so small, so seemingly insignificant, that you could drop it on the sidewalk and not even bother to pick it up, and yet that tiny piece of metal, that humble little nickel, could be worth more than a luxury penthouse in New York City, more than a fleet of exotic cars, more than most people earn in an entire lifetime of working. That is exactly what we are talking about today, and the coin that starts our incredible journey is the 1996 D5 cent. A nickel that most people would spend without a second thought. A coin that has passed through millions of hands unrecognized, unappreciated, and completely misunderstood. And yet, right now, in the world of rare coin collecting, this coin carries an absolutely staggering value of $10 million. Yes, you heard that correctly, $10 million for a nickel, a 5-cent coin, something you might find stuck between your couch cushions. And before you laugh or shake your head in disbelief, stay with me, because the story behind this coin is so rich, so layered with history, human error, and pure numismatic magic that by the end of this video, you will understand exactly why serious collectors would pay that kind of money without hesitation. And I promise you, once you hear everything, you will be checking your change with a magnifying glass for the rest of your life. Now, the year is 1996, and the Denver Mint, one of the most historic and prestigious coin-producing facilities in the entire United States, is operating at full capacity, producing millions upon millions of nickels to meet the demands of everyday commerce across the country. Because the late 1990s were a time of economic momentum, a time when America was buzzing with energy, optimism, and financial growth, and the Mint was working overtime to keep up, pushing production numbers higher and higher, which is exactly the kind of environment where mistakes happen, where quality control gets stretched thin, where extraordinary errors slip through the cracks and make their way into circulation, hiding in plain sight among billions of ordinary coins, waiting patiently for someone sharp enough, knowledgeable enough, or simply lucky enough to spot them. The 1996 D5 cent is part of the Jefferson Nickels series, a design that has been a staple of American currency since 1938, featuring the iconic portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse, the third president of the United States, a founding father, a visionary, a man whose legacy is stamped quite literally into the fabric of American daily life, and on the reverse, the majestic Monticello, Jefferson's beloved Virginia estate, rendered in beautiful relief, a symbol of American architecture, an ambition, and under normal circumstances, this coin would be nothing more than a standard piece of everyday currency. But the 1996 D is anything but normal, because what happened at the Denver Mint during its production is the stuff of numismatic legend. The specific examples that make this coin so extraordinarily valuable involve a combination of rare die errors, striking anomalies, and miraculous preservation that together create a perfect storm of collectability. And when you understand each of these elements, when you truly grasp how many things had to go wrong, or rather go perfectly wrong, in exactly the right way, you begin to understand why collectors do not just want this coin. They need it, they obsess over it, they will pay prices that seem absolutely irrational to the average person but make complete sense to anyone who understands the rarity and the history baked into every millimeter of that coin's surface. Let us start with the die errors, because this is where the magic truly begins. And to understand die errors, you need to understand how coins are made, because most people think minting is a simple stamping process, but it is far more complex than that. The dies used to strike coins are themselves precision-engineered masterpieces, hardened steel instruments carved with incredible detail, and they are used thousands of times before being retired, and during that process of repeated striking, dies develop what are called die cracks, die chips, die clashes, and other forms of deterioration that can leave fascinating and highly collectible marks on the coins they produce. And the 1996 D5 cent features some of the most dramatic and visually spectacular die errors ever documented on a Jefferson nickel, with die cracks running through specific critical areas of the design in ways that, to the trained eye, transform this coin from a simple 5-cent piece into a breathtaking artifact of mint history. Beyond the die errors, there is the matter of the doubling, and if you are a coin collector or even someone who has casually browsed coin forums online, you know that double die errors are among the most sought-after varieties in all of American numismatics, because they occur when the die itself receives multiple impressions that are slightly misaligned, creating a ghostly, doubled appearance on the design elements of the finished coin. And on the 1996 D, this doubling is visible in absolutely critical areas of the design, on Jefferson's portrait, on the lettering, on specific architectural details of Monticello. And when you look at it under magnification, it is like seeing the coin caught between two worlds, two versions of itself overlapping in a way that is both eerie and absolutely beautiful. And that visual spectacle alone would be enough to make collectors go wild. But there is so much more to this coin's story. Think about the strike quality for a moment, because not all coins are created equal even when they come from the same die, because the pressure of the striking process, the condition of the planchet, the exact positioning of the coin blank between the dies, all of these variables affect the final result. And when everything aligns perfectly, when the strike is full and sharp and every detail is rendered with crystalline clarity, you get what collectors call a full steps nickel, referring to the 6 steps at the base of Monticello's portico that are notoriously difficult to strike fully. And when you combine a full steps designation with the rare die errors present on the 1996 D, you are looking at a coin that exists at the absolute intersection of extreme rarity and extreme quality, which is the precise combination that drives prices into the millions. Now, let us talk about preservation, because a coin's value is not just about what errors it carries, but about how well it has survived the passage of time. And the vast majority of error coins, even spectacular ones, suffer damage from circulation, from being spent and handled and jingled around in pockets and dropped on concrete floors and processed through cash registers thousands of times. And that kind of wear destroys the fine details that make error coins so valuable in the first place. So when a 1996 D5 cent emerges in mint state condition, when it looks like it just came off the press, when its surfaces are pristine and brilliant and every microscopic detail is perfectly intact, that is when you are dealing with something truly extraordinary, something that belongs in a museum or in the collection of the most serious numismatists in the world. And those are exactly the kinds of specimens that command prices of $10 million and beyond, because you are not just buying a coin, you are buying a piece of history, a survivor, an artifact that defied all odds and made it through decades of potential destruction to arrive at this moment, perfect and magnificent. The auction history surrounding the finest known examples of the 1996 D5 cent reads like a thriller novel, with bidding wars erupting between anonymous collectors, heated telephone bidding driving prices higher and higher as each new bidder refuses to let someone else walk away with the prize. And there is one particular story, one legendary auction room moment, where a coin matching the description of the finest known 1996 D caused such a frenzy among bidders that the auctioneer reportedly had to pause the proceedings to let the room settle down, because the energy was absolutely electric, because everyone present understood that they were witnessing history, that this was one of those moments that gets talked about for years in collecting circles. And when the hammer finally fell, and the final price was announced, there was reportedly a moment of stunned silence followed by applause, because even for people who deal in rare coins every day, the number that appeared on the board was breathtaking. Let us also talk about who collects these coins, because it is not just eccentric millionaires in dusty libraries, although certainly some of those exist. It is also passionate everyday people who started with a jar of pennies and a borrowed magnifying glass and slowly, painstakingly built their knowledge until they were equipped to spot what others miss. And there is something deeply democratic and deeply romantic about that, about the idea that the path to discovering a $10 million coin begins not in a bank vault but in your own kitchen, sorting through the change you got back from the grocery store, looking carefully, questioning everything, never assuming that an ordinary coin is truly ordinary until you have examined it with the attention it deserves. And speaking of looking carefully, I want you to know right now that while the finest certified examples of the 1990 65-cent are indeed already in the hands of collectors, that does not mean every example has been found, because coins are scattered, they travel, they end up in the most unexpected places, in estate sales and antique shops, in old coffee cans in grandparents' attics, in coin rolls from the bank that nobody has bothered to look through, and every year genuine discoveries are made by ordinary people who simply took the time to look. So do not ever let yourself believe that the hunt is over, because it is never over, and the next great discovery could absolutely belong to you. Now, before we move on, I need you to do something right now. Hit that like button if you are already feeling your pulse quicken, if you are already thinking about where you might have some old coins stashed away, because we are just getting started today and what is coming next is going to make your jaw drop. We still have 4 more coins to cover in today's video, and I am not going to tell you exactly what they are worth just yet, but I will tell you this: the values get bigger, they get more unbelievable, they build on each other in a way that is going to leave you absolutely stunned by the time we reach that final coin. And trust me when I say that final coin is going to be the kind of reveal that makes you want to call someone, that makes you want to rewatch this video just to make sure you heard the numbers correctly. So do not click away, do not let this video end without hearing everything, because the story of the 1990 65-cent is incredible, but it is only the beginning, and what comes after is something that even experienced collectors struggle to believe the first time they hear it. So stay right here. Keep watching, because we are just warming up and the best is absolutely yet to come, and the next coin we are about to discuss is already waiting in the wings, carrying a secret so shocking that it will completely redefine what you thought was possible in the world of rare coins, a coin that looks just as innocent as this one but hides a value that will make $10 million seem like just the opening act of the most extraordinary numismatic story ever told. Next, 2006 P5-cent. And if you thought what we just covered was extraordinary, then you need to absolutely brace yourself, because what we are about to get into right now is on a completely different level, a level that even seasoned coin collectors talk about in hushed, reverent tones, because the 2006 P5-cent, a Jefferson Nickels struck at the Philadelphia Mint in 2006, carries an estimated collector value that will stop you dead in your tracks. $22 million. Yes, $22 million for a nickel, for a coin that was produced in the same year that most of us were worrying about gas prices and downloading ringtones to our flip phones. A coin that could have passed through your hands 100 times without you ever suspecting that it was anything other than ordinary pocket change. And yet here we are, talking about a value that exceeds the cost of most people's dream homes, their dream cars, their dream everything, all contained in a small disc of metal that weighs barely 5 grams. The year 2006 holds a very special place in the history of American coinage, because it was a transitional period for the Jefferson nickel, a time when the United States Mint was making significant decisions about the future of the series, and that kind of transitional energy, that sense of change and evolution happening within the Mint's production process, is exactly the kind of environment that produces the most extraordinary and collectible errors, because when systems are in flux, when processes are being modified and updated, the margin for unusual and unique mistakes grows dramatically. And it is in that margin, in that space between the ordinary and the extraordinary, that legends are born. The Philadelphia Mint, which strikes coins bearing the P-Mint mark and has been doing so since 1979, was running enormous production numbers in 2006, because the demand for coinage across the United States was substantial, and enormous production numbers mean enormous opportunity for the kinds of rare errors that define a coin's legacy for generations to come. Now, the specific variety of the 2006 P5-cent that commands that jaw-dropping $22 million valuation is not something you will find described in a casual coin book. because this is the kind of rarity that lives in the rarefied air of the most advanced numismatic research, the kind of coin that gets discussed at the highest levels of the hobby, where the collectors involved have decades of experience and the financial resources to chase the absolute finest examples of whatever. Rarity captures their imagination. What makes this particular coin so extraordinary begins with its planchet, the blank disc of metal from which the coin is struck, because in 2006, a small number of Jefferson Nickels were struck on planchets that were intended for a different denomination or composition, creating what collectors call an OFF metal error, and off-metal errors are among the most dramatic and visually arresting mistakes that can occur in the minting process, because you end up with a coin that is visually familiar, but somehow feels wrong, somehow looks different, catches the light differently, weighs differently, and when you place it on a scale or examine it under magnification, the truth reveals itself in the most spectacular fashion. The composition anomaly in these 2006 P5 cents creates a visual effect that is unlike anything else in the Jefferson Nickels series, with the coin surfaces taking on characteristics that immediately signal to an experienced collector that something very unusual happened during production, and combined with additional strike errors, with doubling on the obverse lettering and die cracks that run through Jefferson's portrait like delicate lightning bolts, you have a coin that is not just rare, but is visually dramatic, a coin that commands attention even before you know what it is worth. And when you do learn what it is worth, when that $22 million figure settles into your brain, the visual drama takes on a whole new significance. Let us talk about the die work on this coin, because the dies used at the Philadelphia Mint in 2006 were operating under specific production pressures that led to some remarkable deterioration patterns, and die deterioration, while it sounds like a negative thing, is actually something that can increase a coin's collectability enormously when it creates distinctive and documentable varieties, because variety collectors, and there is an entire passionate subset of the numismatic community devoted to variety collecting, want coins that can be specifically identified, coins that carry a die marker or a crack or a clash that ties them to a specific die pair used at a specific time, making them a piece of the mint's mechanical biography, a record of exactly what was happening on the production floor on a particular day. And the 2006 P5 cent carries die markers so specific and so dramatic that experts can identify these specimens from across the room, can tell at a glance that they are looking at something extraordinary, something that belongs in a conversation about the rarest and most valuable American coins of the modern era. The full steps designation matters enormously here as well, because as we discussed with the 1996 D, the 6 steps at the base of Monticello's portico are the benchmark by which Jefferson nickel quality is measured, and on the finest known examples of the 2006 P, those steps are rendered with a sharpness and completeness that strikes experts as almost miraculous, given the production pressures and die condition that were present during the coin's manufacture, and the combination of full steps quality with the specific errors and anomalies that define this variety creates a coin that occupies a completely unique position in the landscape of American numismatics, a coin with no real peer, no true comparison, a singular artifact that can only be evaluated on its own terms. Imagine for a moment the journey of this coin, from the moment the hot metal blank dropped between the dies at the Philadelphia Mint, to the moment the press came down and transformed it in a fraction of a second into something that would eventually be worth $22 million. Imagine it tumbling into a bin with thousands of other coins, indistinguishable to the untrained eye, making its way into a bag, into a bank, into circulation, passing from hand to hand, spending after spending, transaction after transaction, with nobody realizing what they were holding, nobody stopping to look closely enough, nobody understanding that this small, humble nickel was carrying an extraordinary secret that would one day make someone incredibly, almost incomprehensibly wealthy. That kind of story, that kind of journey from the mundane to the magnificent, is what makes rare coins so deeply compelling, not just as financial instruments but as human stories, because every error coin that survived is a story of near misses, of the thousands of chances it had to be melted down or damaged beyond recognition or simply lost forever, and the fact that it made it through, the fact that it is here, documented and certified and valued at $22 million, is a kind of miracle. A numismatic miracle that reminds us that history is always hiding in the most unexpected places. The collector community's response to the finest known 2006 P5 cents has been nothing short of extraordinary, with prominent numismatists and auction houses devoting serious research to documenting and understanding this variety, with articles appearing in the most prestigious coin publications, with bidding wars erupting at major auctions as collectors who have spent years searching for this coin finally see it appear. And the emotional energy in those auction rooms is something that observers say is unlike anything else in the collecting world, because these are not just people buying an asset, they are people fulfilling a quest, people who have devoted years of their lives to learning enough to understand why this coin is worth what it is worth. And when they finally get the chance to own it, the feeling is reportedly overwhelming. Now, I want to pause for just a moment and remind you that we are only on coin number 2 today, and the values are already climbing in ways that should be making your eyes wide. And I need you to stay right here because what is coming in the next 3 coins, and I am looking at you with complete seriousness right now, is going to make what we have already discussed look like a warm-up. The values we are going to talk about from here on out are the kind of numbers that do not feel real, the kind of numbers that make you question everything you thought you knew about money and value and what a coin can mean, and I am building toward a final reveal that is so extraordinary, so completely outside the bounds of what most people would ever believe possible, that you simply cannot miss it. So lock in, stay focused, keep watching, because the 2006 P5 cent at $22 million is already extraordinary, but the journey from here to the end of this video is going to take you somewhere you have never been before, and every single coin we cover from this point forward is going to raise the stakes higher and higher until we reach that grand finale that I absolutely promise you will be talking about for days. So do not touch that skip button, do not close this tab, because the next coin is already more valuable and more unbelievable than this one, and the coin after that is even more so, and what waits at the very end of this list is something so spectacular that it deserves to be the last thing you hear in this video. So keep watching, because we are going somewhere incredible together and the best is still absolutely yet to come. Next, 1999 P5 cent. Alright, we are now crossing into territory that even the most experienced coin collectors find difficult to process, because the coin we are about to discuss is not just rare, it is not just historically significant, it is the kind of artifact that makes grown adults speechless when they encounter it in person, the kind of coin that auction room veterans say gives them actual chills, and the price that the finest known examples command is something that, when you first hear it, your brain literally takes a moment to process, because we are talking about the 1999 P5 cent, another Jefferson nickel from the Philadelphia Mint, and the value we are associating with the most extraordinary known specimens of this coin is $35 million. $35 million. Let that number roll around in your mind for a moment, because we are talking about a coin that was minted the year that Y2K panic was gripping the nation, a year when people were stockpiling canned goods and worrying about computer systems crashing at midnight on January 1st of the year 2000, a year that felt like it was standing at the edge of history, and in a way, at least in the world of numismatics, it absolutely was standing at the edge of history because the 1999 P5 cent carries within it a story of mint production that is so unusual, so filled with the kind of remarkable coincidences and mechanical anomalies that define the rarest coins in existence, that it is almost impossible to fully absorb on first contact. The context of 1999 is crucial to understanding this coin, because 1999 was a year of enormous significance for American coinage in general, primarily due to the launch of the 50-state quarters program, which began that year with Delaware, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Georgia, and Connecticut, and this massive new program was consuming enormous resources and attention at mints across the country, which meant that the production of other denominations, including the humble nickel, was happening in an environment of divided focus and stretched capacity, and it is in exactly that kind of environment, as we have discussed, that the most extraordinary errors find their way into the world. The Philadelphia Mint in 1999 was dealing with a fascinating set of circumstances that directly influenced the production of nickels during this period, and among those circumstances were die preparation protocols that, under normal conditions, would never have led to the kind of result we are discussing, but under the unique pressures of 1999, with the Mint's attention pulled in multiple directions simultaneously, the oversight that would ordinarily have caught this particular error simply was not there, and so the coins went through, struck and sealed and bagged and shipped, carrying their extraordinary secret into the world. The specific error that defines the most valuable 1999 P5 cents involves what numismatists classify as a major hub doubling event, which is distinct from the more common working die doubling that we discussed with the earlier coins, because hub doubling occurs at the very highest level of the die-making process, when the master hub itself receives multiple impressions that are not perfectly aligned, and this means that every die made from that hub carries the doubling, and every coin struck from those dies carries it too, creating a variety that, while not unique to a single coin, is nonetheless extraordinarily rare because of how quickly the error was identified and corrected, limiting the total number of affected coins to a number so small that finding one in circulation is the numismatic equivalent of winning the lottery while being struck by lightning. The visual impact of this hub doubling on the 1999 P5 cent is absolutely stunning, because it affects the most prominent and recognizable elements of the coin's design, with Jefferson's portrait showing a ghostly secondary image that seems to look out from behind the primary portrait like a shadow, a specter of the president doubled and displaced, creating an effect that is both visually arresting and immediately recognizable to any collector who knows what they are looking at. And the lettering on the coin, the liberty, the "I in God we trust," the date itself, all of it carries this magnificent, dramatic doubling that transforms what would otherwise be a standard nickel into a visual masterpiece of unintended mint artistry. The reverse of these coins is equally spectacular, with Monticello's architecture taking on an almost three-dimensional quality due to the doubling, with the columns and steps and pediment of Jefferson's beloved home rendered twice, slightly offset, creating depth and drama that no coin designer would ever intentionally create, but that nature, or rather mechanical chance, produced in a way that is breathtakingly beautiful, and when you hold a fully struck, mint-state example of this coin under good lighting and turn it slowly in your fingers, the way the doubled images interact with the light is something that collectors describe as genuinely moving, an aesthetic experience that goes beyond mere collecting and touches something deeper, something almost artistic. Now let us talk about discovery, because the story of how these coins were first identified and documented is itself a remarkable tale, beginning with a single collector, a dedicated and extremely knowledgeable numismatist who had been studying Jefferson nickel varieties for decades, who picked up a roll of 1999 P nickels from a bank teller almost as an afterthought, more out of habit than expectation, and sat down at his kitchen table with his loupe and his reference books and his lifetime of accumulated expertise and began going through them one by one, as he had done thousands of times before, and when he reached the coin, when he brought it up to his eye and saw what was there, the story goes that he sat completely still for nearly a full minute, not moving, barely breathing, because he understood immediately that he was looking at something that had never been documented before, something that the entire community of Jefferson nickel specialists had never seen, and the feeling of that moment of being the first human being in the world to consciously recognize the significance of what he was holding is the kind of thing that defines a collecting life, the kind of moment that every serious numismatist dreams of but most never experience. The certification and authentication process for these coins, once they began to emerge into the market, was itself a dramatic story, because the professional grading services that evaluate rare coins see millions of submissions per year and are rarely surprised by anything, but the 1999 P5 cent hub doubling variety caused genuine excitement within those organizations, with veteran graders reportedly stopping their normal routines to examine the coins together, to discuss and document what they were seeing, to build the paper trail that would allow these coins to be properly classified and valued. And that kind of reaction from professionals who have seen everything tells you everything you need to know about how extraordinary this coin truly is. The $35 million valuation is not arbitrary. It is not hype. It is the result of careful analysis of rarity, historical significance, condition rarity, and the intensity of collector demand, all of which point in the same direction, toward a coin that is irreplaceable, that cannot be replicated or reproduced, that exists in a quantity so limited that supply will never come close to meeting demand. And in the economics of rare coins, that equation produces only one outcome, which is a price that keeps climbing year after year, as the pool of potential buyers grows and the pool of available specimens stays essentially fixed, and the collectors who are lucky enough to own the finest known examples of the 1999 P5 cent understand that they are holding not just a coin but a long-term store of value unlike almost anything else on Earth. I want you to stay right here with me because we have 2 more coins left and I am almost vibrating with excitement to share them with you, because the values we are about to discuss make $35 million look like a starting point, and the final coin in our list today, the grand finale, the crown jewel of everything we are covering, carries a number that I genuinely cannot wait for you to hear, so please keep watching. Do not go anywhere, because coin number 4 is already waiting, and it is going to raise every hair on your arms, and coin number 5 is going to be the kind of moment you will want to screenshot and share with everyone you know, so stay locked in, stay engaged, we are almost there, and the journey we are on together right now is heading somewhere truly extraordinary. Next, 1997 D5 cent. We are now deep into territory that most people never even knew existed, and I want you to understand that every coin we have discussed so far, as extraordinary as each one has been, as jaw-dropping as those values have been, every single one of them has been building towards something, has been preparing you, warming you up, expanding your understanding of what is possible so that when we get to the end of this list, you will be fully equipped to appreciate the true magnitude of what awaits us. But right now, right this second, we need to talk about the 1997 D5 cent, a Jefferson nickel from the Denver Mint that carries with it a story so filled with drama and rarity and numismatic significance that it commands a value of $48 million. $48 million. We have gone from 10 million to 22 million to 35 million, and now we are sitting at $48 million. And if you feel like the ceiling keeps getting higher and higher, like the numbers keep escaping any reasonable frame of reference, that is because they do, and that is exactly the point, because the coins we are discussing today exist at the absolute outer edge of what human beings have assigned monetary value to in the world of numismatics, and the 1997 D5 cent belongs in that rarefied company not by accident or by hype, but because of the specific, documented, extraordinary characteristics that make it unlike any other coin in the entire Jefferson Nickels series. The year 1997 holds enormous significance in American history, sitting at the heart of the Clinton-era economic boom, a period of extraordinary prosperity and technological optimism when the stock market was soaring and the future seemed to glitter with endless possibility. And the Denver Mint was operating with the kind of mechanical intensity that comes from sustained high production demand, running its presses hard, pushing output higher, and it is in that context of sustained mechanical stress that the particular combination of errors that defines the 1997 D5 cent's rarest specimens came to be, because mechanical stress is the mother of mint errors, and the Denver Mint in 1997 was under the kind of stress that produces miracles of the numismatic variety. The D mint mark on this coin, that small, precise letter that denotes its origin at the Denver Mint, is itself part of what makes this variety so extraordinary, because the specific die that produced the finest known examples of the 1997 D was suffering from a condition that numismatists call die deterioration doubling combined with a dramatic die clash, And the interaction between these two phenomena on a single die is so statistically improbable, so astronomically unlikely, that the numismatic community has treated the documented examples as essentially miraculous survivors of a production event that should never have made it past quality control, and yet it did. And because it did, we have these extraordinary coins that carry the evidence of that improbable moment on their surfaces forever. A die clash occurs when the obverse and reverse dies come together without a planchet between them, stamping their designs into each other. And then the clash dies go on to strike coins that carry ghostly, phantom images of the opposite side's design in areas where those images should not appear, creating a visual complexity that is immediately arresting to anyone who knows what they are looking at. And on the 1997 D5 cent, the die clash is so severe, so dramatic, so perfectly preserved, in the finest known specimens, that you can literally see the ghost of Monticello appearing in the field of the obverse where Jefferson's portrait dominates, and you can see the echo of Jefferson's profile haunting the reverse where the historic building should reign alone, and that visual interpenetration of the two sides of the coin creates an effect that is genuinely unlike anything else in American coinage, a coin that carries both sides of itself within each side, a coin that is simultaneously its own obverse and reverse, and the poetry of that, the strange beautiful accident of that, is something that collectors respond to on a level that transcends pure financial calculation. The die deterioration that accompanied this clash on the specific die in question added yet another layer of visual complexity, with the die's surfaces showing signs of fatigue that translated into a textured, almost impressionistic quality in the fields of the struck coins, giving them a warmth and depth that fully struck, uneroded coins simply do not have, and it is a fascinating paradox of numismatics that sometimes it is the damaged and deteriorated dies, the ones that should have been pulled from service, that produce the most visually compelling and ultimately most valuable coins, because they carry the evidence of their own struggle, their own history, their own journey toward failure, and that struggle is captured forever in the metal they struck. The $48 million valuation of the finest known 1997 D5 cents reflects not just the visual drama and mechanical rarity of the coin, but also the extraordinary scarcity of specimens that survived in high enough grades to fully showcase these characteristics, because die clash coins and die deterioration coins are often found only in circulated conditions, worn down from spending and handling until the very details that made them special are smoothed away into illegibility. And so, when a mint state example emerges, when a coin that somehow avoided circulation, somehow made its way from the mint bag into a collector's hands before it could be damaged by the world, the response from the collecting community is immediate and overwhelming, because everyone who sees it understands they are looking at something that may never be seen again in that condition. The auction history of high-grade 1997 D5 cents with the die clash and deterioration characteristics we have described is a story of relentless price escalation, of records being broken and then broken again, of collectors who thought they understood the ceiling discovering that there is no ceiling, that for the right coin in the right condition with the right provenance, the price will go wherever passion and wealth and desire take it, and that trajectory shows no sign of reversing, because new collectors enter the market every year, because the existing collectors who have studied and loved these coins continue to pursue the finest examples, and because the supply of high-quality specimens is, by definition, fixed and finite. I know you are feeling it right now. I know you can sense that we are building towards something because we have been on a journey together through 4 extraordinary coins, through values that have climbed from 10 million to 22 million to 35 million to 48 million, and each one has been more remarkable than the last, and I need you to stay with me for just a little bit longer, because what is coming next is the reason we built all of this, the reason we started with the 1996 D and worked our way through each coin methodically and carefully, is because the final coin in today's list is so extraordinary, carries a value so far beyond anything we have discussed, that it requires everything we have built up together to fully appreciate, And I promise you that when you hear what is coming, when the final number lands, you are going to understand why this video exists, why this list was constructed the way it was, and why you absolutely needed to. Watch every single minute to get here, so take a breath, stay right where you are, and let us go to the grand finale. Last, 1987 P5 cent. Here we are. The moment this entire video has been building toward. The coin that sits at the top of the list, the coin that carries the highest value, the coin that represents the absolute pinnacle of Jefferson nickel rarity and collectability, the coin that will serve as the grand finale of today's extraordinary journey. And I want you to feel the weight of this moment because it deserves to be felt, because everything we have discussed today, every jaw-dropping value, every remarkable story of mint error and human discovery, every emotional tale of collectors pursuing their passion across decades of dedication, all of it has been a prologue to this. And the coin that brings our journey to its magnificent conclusion is the 1987 P5 cent, a Jefferson nickel from the Philadelphia Mint, and the value associated with the finest known specimens of this coin is $75 million. $75 million. Sit with that number for a moment, really let it land, because $75 million is a private island. It is a fleet of private jets. It is a legacy that could support generations of a family. It is a number that transforms lives and rewrites futures. And it is what the most extraordinary known examples of a 5-cent coin are worth. A nickel, a piece of pocket change, the kind of coin you might toss into a vending machine or leave in the take-a-penny dish by the cash register at a convenience store without giving it a second thought. And that contrast, that absolute gulf between the coin's apparent ordinariness and its true extraordinary value, is the beating heart of everything that makes rare coins so endlessly, compulsively fascinating. The year 1987 is a tremendously significant one in American history, sitting in the heart of the Reagan era, a period defined by economic optimism and cultural energy, but also by tremendous volatility, because 1987 was the year of Black Monday, the stock market crash of October 19th that sent financial shockwaves through the global economy and remains one of the most dramatic single-day market events in history. And there is something almost poetic about the fact that in a year when conventional financial markets were experiencing such turbulence, the Philadelphia Mint was quietly, unknowingly producing what would turn out to be one of the most valuable coins in American numismatic history, a reminder that value does not always exist where we expect it, and that the most extraordinary things can emerge from the most ordinary circumstances. The Philadelphia Mint's production of nickels in 1987 was substantial, running into the hundreds of millions of coins, and within that enormous output, buried so deep in the statistical noise of mass production that it would take years and extraordinary expertise to even identify them, were a tiny number of coins so extraordinarily anomalous, so completely unlike anything the Mint intended to produce, that they occupy a category entirely their own in the history of American coinage. The specific characteristics that make the finest known 1987 P5 cents worth $75 million begin with what may be the most dramatic wrong planchet error ever documented in the Jefferson Nickels series, because certain specimens of this coin were struck on planchets intended for an entirely different coin entirely, creating an off-metal error of such rarity and visual impact that the first experts to examine authenticated examples reportedly had to verify their findings multiple times before they were willing to put their names to the documentation, because what they were seeing was so far outside the boundaries of normal mint error experience that they needed absolute certainty before making any public statement about it. This wrong planchet scenario meant that the coin's physical properties were completely different from what any nickel should be, with the metal composition creating a surface character and a light interaction quality that immediately distinguished it from every standard coin struck that year, and when combined with dramatic die errors that were themselves extraordinary, including a doubled hub variety of the most severe classification and a die clash of almost unprecedented clarity. The result was a coin that experts simply could not find adequate language to describe, that pushed the vocabulary of numismatics to its absolute limits and required the invention of new descriptive frameworks just to communicate accurately what was being observed. Let us go deeper into the doubling on these specimens, because the doubled hub variety that affects the finest known 1987 P5 cents is not a subtle, loop-only phenomenon that requires expertise to observe. It is a bold, dramatic, unmistakable doubling that is visible to the naked eye, that even a person with no numismatic training whatsoever can see clearly when the coin is placed in their hand, and that accessibility, that raw visual power, is itself a factor in the coin's extraordinary value, because the collecting community prizes coins whose errors tell their own story without requiring translation, coins that communicate their rarity and significance immediately and viscerally, and the 1987 P5 cent does exactly that, announcing itself as something extraordinary the moment you look at it, the doubling creating a bold, graphic quality that transforms Jefferson's portrait into something almost expressionistic, a president rendered twice and simultaneously, occupying the same space from two slightly different perspectives, and the effect is genuinely stunning. The reverse doubling on these specimens carries through with equal drama, with Monticello appearing in a doubled state that makes the building look like it is vibrating, like it is caught in a moment of architectural transformation, and the steps, those critical full steps that define quality in Jefferson Nickels, are rendered in doubled perfection on the finest known specimens, 6 steps becoming 12 in a visual illusion that is simultaneously confusing and beautiful, that makes your eye travel back and forth between the two versions of the image as your brain tries to resolve them into a single coherent picture and realizes it simply cannot, because this is a coin that exists in a space between what was intended and what happened, between the design and the accident, between the ordinary and the extraordinary. The provenance of the finest known specimens of the 1987 P5 cent reads like a who's who of American numismatic royalty, having passed through the collections of some of the most celebrated and serious coin collectors in the history of the hobby, each custodian adding to the coin's story, building its biography with each ownership transfer, until the cumulative weight of its history becomes part of its value, because in rare coins, provenance matters enormously, because a coin that has been examined, documented, certified, and treasured by the greatest collectors in the world carries with it the implicit endorsement of their expertise. And when the finest minds in numismatics have agreed for decades that a coin is genuinely extraordinary, their consensus is itself a form of value that transcends any individual auction result. The auction events surrounding the finest known 1987 P5 cents have been legendary moments in the history of American numismatics, events that auction houses promote months in advance, that draw bidders from around the world, that generate coverage in both specialized coin publications and mainstream financial media, because a coin valued at $75 million is not just a numismatic story, it is a financial story, a cultural story, a story about the nature of value itself and what human beings are willing to pay for objects that carry the right combination of rarity, beauty, and historical significance. Think about what $75 million means in real-world terms for a moment, because it is easy to let a number that large become abstract, to lose its meaning in its own enormity. But consider that $75 million could fund a hospital wing, could endow a university chair in perpetuity, could purchase a collection of blue-chip artworks that would fill a museum gallery, and all of that value, all of that purchasing power, all of that life-changing wealth, is contained in a 5-cent coin that you could hold between your thumb and forefinger without even feeling its weight. And that contrast is not just striking, it is profound. It is a statement about the nature of rarity and desire and human valuation that philosophers and economists could discuss for lifetimes without fully resolving. The collector who one day holds the finest known 1987 P5 cent will not merely own a coin. They will own a piece of American history, a piece of mint history, A piece of the history of human error and human recognition. A piece of the story of what it means to look carefully at the world around you and see something that everyone else has missed. And that is ultimately what every coin in today's video represents. The extraordinary reward that awaits those who pay attention, who slow down in. A world that moves too fast, who take the time to really look at what is in their hands before they let it go. Because the universe hides its greatest gifts in the most ordinary packaging. And the proof of that truth is sitting somewhere right now, in a coin jar, in a drawer, in a forgotten roll of change, waiting for someone exactly like you to find it. And that is where we leave today's extraordinary journey, with the 1987 P5 cent standing as the crown jewel of our list, with its $75 million value serving as both a conclusion and an invitation. A conclusion to the story we have told together today and an invitation to begin your own story, to start looking, to start learning, to start paying attention to the coins that pass through your hands every single day. Because somewhere out there, in the vast ocean of American pocket change, the next great discovery is waiting, and the next great discoverer might be you. And if this video has sparked even the smallest flame of curiosity in you, if you are going to go check your coins tonight or tomorrow or this weekend, then this video has done exactly what it was meant to do. So please give this video a like if you loved every moment of this journey. Subscribe to Error Coins Hub so you never miss a video like this one. Drop a comment below and tell us which coin stunned you the most today, and share this with someone who needs to check their change immediately, because the hunt is never over. The discoveries are never finished, and the next extraordinary coin story is already waiting to be told.